Perhaps the only thing more boring than watching paint dry is a discussion about wallpaper.
But what if I told you one of the most epic stories featuring war, fine art, cave exploring, and a treasure discovery has wallpaper at its center? Well, Jacob Kittilstad finds the adventure behind the art this Mystery Monday.
Deer, cacti, cows, and
here's this one, his brain, and that's his pal.
Elephants. Historian Terry Travado walks through the 4 zones depicted in this vintage French wallpaper at Dunleith Mansion.
It shows you the 4 basic climates: tropical, temperate, Arctic, and arid. They're showing us the century plant in its final stage.
Not shown, however, is the zone where the wallpaper spent much of its existence. Underground, in a cave, placed there for its protection by the workers of the Zubair Company, who painstakingly designed and imprinted its panels.
This wallpaper was first produced in the year 1855, and it was done using an engraved wooden block hand printing technique. When World War I starts in 1914, it's on the border with Germany. The people had our wallpaper in their warehouse. They had not sold it. They had French soldiers hide it in a cave in the French countryside. The French soldiers get killed shortly thereafter and never tell anyone in which cave the wallpaper was hidden.
More than 2 decades later, Europe is again at war. In World War II, Nazis would occupy Zubair.
Now, it's wintertime when this happens, and these German soldiers find their way to the cellar, and they grab all of the wooden blocks used to produce this Lazone wallpaper, carry them upstairs, throw them in the fireplaces, use them for firewood, and the result is you can never get this Lazone wallpaper again.
But the wallpaper lived on. And if you can believe it, in 1960, amateur cave explorers would stumble into its hiding place.
Here's your mildew spots, and as I said, we had treated all those.
It would end up in Natchez, bought through a dealer in 1976. In today's money, the total expense, including installation, would be $106,000.
And if you're watching right now thinking, hey, I want my house to look like Dunleith, well, you might be able to search out a few panels of this very set of wallpaper. It might set you back. It'll be pretty expensive, but you probably won't find a full set. And the reason why is this. The people at Dunleith say that they believe there are only 10 surviving sets in the entire world, and they own one of them.
As you look around these walls, imagine how long it took. It took a long time. White, light beige.
All for 31 panels, each just 22 inches wide, as layered with paint as they are with history.
Red nose, and an artist would paint his orange eye.
Exploring the unexplained this Mystery Monday, Jacob Kittilstad, WJTV News Channel 12.
Who knew the history of the wallpaper? Well, the White House also has the Zubair wallpaper. Jackie Kennedy herself selected it back when John F. Kennedy was in office.
Imagine you're outside and look down only to find a giant footprint in the ground. Now, what if you found out there had also been a sighting in the area of a Bigfoot-like creature? Well, Jacob Kittilstad steps into the story this Mystery Monday.
So again, 9 inches long. The toe spread is 6 inches across.
Upon digging up this plaster cast of a footprint, images of the would-be creature that made it flashed through Peyton Lassiter's mind.
The impression of the print looked very deep into the ground. That, you know, basically showing that something, whatever did it, actually had significant weight to it. That's it. But I mean, it was just so defined. And because it looked so unusual, I felt like it was important, you know, to salvage it. And again, on the underside, you can see that curvature of each toe. After pulling the cast out of the mud, it became obvious that it didn't resemble anything that, you know, any typical animal that would be in these parts.
Lassiter says he found the single footprint within the city of Vicksburg, less than 3 miles from the National Military Park. He didn't know it at the time, but less than 1 year ago,
This place just has so much vegetation in it.
another man, a paranormal researcher, had a sighting of the thing that could have made it.
I was just snapping pictures, and next thing you know, I heard a noise in the woods, and right over there at the wood line close to that swing set, it stood up and then just pow, bolted off. Animals are smart, just like deer. You'll see a lot more deer in the military park and a lot more, wildlife game because they're safe there. They know nothing can harm them.
So their stories seem to line up. But what if the print isn't from a Bigfoot-like animal?
What if it's a bear claw? Or bear paw, made by a real animal, not a donut, but a smeared one on the ground, let's say. Skeptics of Bigfoot's existence say that those tracks have been misidentified before. And also, just looking at the history of Bigfoot lore, there are a lot of hoaxes out there. So it makes this kind of hard to believe. I haven't seen a hoax here in Vicksburg yet, and hey, it's just a gut feeling we ought to go after it.
And then if you have a piece of physical evidence such as this, it's definitely worth not totally ruling out. Put a hand or claw or something here, because again, I've got my fingers in the holes now.
Peyton says he believes they've found smaller markings, plus hair hardened onto the cast. So real or not, the stories have been enough to make people want to cut back parts of the wooded hillside.
Because of the dense vegetation, it's a good idea to, to make this more of a clearer area, in the event that whatever this thing is, it's not, it's not waiting on anybody.
Exploring the unexplained this Mystery Monday, Jacob Kittilstad, WJTV News Channel 12.
Thank you, Jake. And the group Delta Paranormal Research plans to continue investigating in that area. Their members say Sasquatch-like sightings are recorded in Mississippi as far back as the 1700s. A wonder of engineering is left to crumble in Clinton, surrounded by encroaching trees and brush. Players on a nearby soccer field might not even know that a sprawling, abandoned model of the Mississippi River lies just steps away. Jacob Kittilstad paddles through why the river now runs dry this Mystery Monday.
Rusty switches still toggle, wooden structures still stand, if barely, but the only water left serves as stagnant birthplaces for mosquitoes. There was a time, however, that you could have said a river runs through it. 200 acres of concrete, a giant model, represents the Mississippi River Basin. It is meticulous, detailed, and deserted.
The model in Jackson was the beginning of physical modeling, really. What we have here is a 1:100 scale model of Lake Bourne.
Jackie Petway, chief of the Navigation Division, says the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers still uses models for a variety of reasons.
But there are aspects of the flow, the behavior of the fluid that you just cannot capture with numerical models.
This is not a prototype for a square slinky. This added roughness to the models to simulate vegetation.
And Dennis Webb, a research hydraulic engineer who worked at the now abandoned model in the mid-'80s, says its capabilities were almost considered legendary.
1.5 gallons per minute would be the equivalent of 1.5 million gallons in real life.
The people in the field would say, the water's at this level here right now. What's going to happen downstream? So the engineers and the technicians would set the model and watch the water, and within the space of 15 minutes, they have 3 days, and they can say, okay, this area is going to be fine. This area is going to flood horrendously, so move everybody out.
It was constructed in World War II using German and POWs as laborers. Engineers and scientists from here in Vicksburg oversaw the construction and designed it.
And the prisoners of war that were there were mostly from Rommel's Africa Corps, so Mississippi heat wasn't as bad as the desert.
Also, there are rumors that go around that the presence of this POW camp meant that at the time, Clinton, Mississippi was home to the most World War II German officers out of any other city in the world, save for maybe Berlin.
So they were well treated, and it was, as far as being a POW goes, it was about as good an experience as it could be.
But 50 years later, its upkeep expense plus new technology pushed forward its retirement. That means now this is more like a network of miniature dry valleys. But not only are the aesthetics off, shifting grounds and tree roots have rendered it unreliable, unusable.
I have not been by to see it. I really don't want to. It was an engineering marvel, and I really don't want to look at it in the state of disrepair that I know it is.
It's an incredible loss, and it just breaks my heart.
Exploring the unexplained on Mystery Monday, Jacob Kittilstad, WJTV News Channel 12.
Thank you, Jake. Another very interesting story. That model represents land from Sioux City, Iowa to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. To make any changes now would require heavy use of a jackhammer.